Magic Tea House, Book Number 53. A Merlin Mission. Shadow of the Shark by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 7. The Forest of Walking Cheese. Annie gasped, then burst out laughing. Heart of the Wind laughed too. Yes, it is wonderful news. I am glad it makes you happy, she said. When the sun rises tomorrow, we will leave the city of dawn and start the long journey back to Palenque. It will take us many moons to get there. But why me? Asked Jack. My father believes you are the answer to his prayers, said Heart of the Wind. He can see you have many things to teach our people. No, I don't, said Jack. His words spilled over each other. I don't know how to farm. I'm not an astronomer or a pyramid builder. I don't know anything about your Mayan calendar. He stopped to catch his breath. My father will teach you these things, said Heart of the Wind. And you will teach us about the wonders in your, what did you call it? Travel guide, said Annie. Yes, said Heart of the Wind, the wonders in your travel guide. No, I can't, said Jack. I don't know how to make any of those things myself, like planes, submarines, skyscrapers, or computers. We live in a world with lots and lots of things, but we have to go to school and study for many years to understand how they work. Besides, my brother and I really need to go back to our own parents in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, said Annie. Heart of the Wind looked confused. Would your mother and father not think it a wonderful honor for Jack to be the next great son of Palenque? They might, said Annie, but they would miss us too much if we came to live with you. That's right, said Jack. We do lots of things with our parents. We have dinner and play games and read books. And talk and laugh, said Annie. Heart of the Wind lowered her head. I have lost my own mother, she said. We talked and laughed together too. I miss her very much. So you understand, Annie said softly. We would miss our parents terribly, and it would break their hearts if we left them alone. We have to go back home. The Mayan girl looked at Jack and Annie for a long moment. Then she nodded. Yes, you must go back to your true mother and father, she said. But I fear my father will not understand. Could you help us get back to the cove on the beach? Asked Jack. So we can cross the sea back to Cozumel and then go home? To our mother and father, said Annie. Heart of the Wind took a deep breath. Yes, I will help you. I will take you to the shore, she said, even though it will make my father sad. Thank you, said Jack. At this time there are watchmen on the wall, said the Mayan girl. But I have discovered a hidden way to get to the sea. In the weeks we have stayed here, I have often slipped away at night to explore the forests or swim in the waves. Wow, you're brave, said Annie. I like the freedom of the dark, the Mayan girl said. I can lead you wherever you want to go. That's great, Jack said. There are still guards outside the door, said Heart of the Wind. I will hold their attention while you climb out the window. Wait for me at the wall where we first met. Got it, said Annie. Stay in the shadows, the Mayan girl said. Be as quiet as cats. Then she slipped out the door, closing it behind her. Let's go, said Annie. Wait, said Jack. Let's take off our shoes. They make too much noise. Jack and Annie pulled off their flip-flops and stuffed them in the bag. Barefoot, they stepped to the window. Annie climbed out first. Take this, Jack whispered. He dropped the bag into Annie's waiting arms. Then he jumped silently to the ground. He could hear voices coming from the other side of the stone building, heard of the wind and the guards. Jack and Annie crept away from the house of columns, moving through the shadows. The night was eerily still, as if everyone in the city of dawn had disappeared until sunrise. When they reached the break in the stone wall, they crouched down and waited for Heart of the Wind. Jack saw the silhouettes of the guards standing on top of the wall. He counted 4 watchmen with bows and arrows, facing the sea. The Mayan girl suddenly appeared before them. Jack hadn't seen or heard her approach. Follow me, she whispered, and she led the way through the narrow opening in the wall. Once they had all squeezed through, Heart of the Wind surprised Jack by turning away from the sea and heading down through thick vegetation growing on the northern slope of the bluff. Jack and Annie followed her down the hill. Prickly bushes and shrubs scratched Jack's bare legs and feet, but he didn't stop. He wanted to be as fleet as Heart of the Wind. At the bottom of the hill, the Mayan girl waited for Jack and Annie to catch up. To return to the beach, we must first travel through the forest of walking cheese, she said. Forest of walking cheese? Said Annie. That sounds cool, but sort of scary. Do not be afraid, said Heart of the Wind. They are very kind cheese. Jack laughed. I like kind cheese, he said. Me too, said Annie. Heart of the Wind led Jack and Annie to a moonlit swamp. As they sloshed through shallow water, Jack heard the hum of insects and the rustling of night creatures. The air smelled of salt water and rotting wood. Whoa, those cheese do have legs, said Annie, peering into the shadows. Those are just roots, said Jack. He'd seen pictures of tropical mangrove cheese with their roots rising above ground. No, those cheese have legs, said Heart of the Wind, but they walk only at night. Hello, she called in a whisper. May we pass by? The wind blew, and the cheese waved their branches. Their leaves rustled, whispering, yes, yes, yes. Come, said the girl. Jack and Annie followed Heart of the Wind deeper into the watery forest, careful not to trip over roots and bushes. Jack jumped when something prickly darted between his ankles. He shuddered when something with lots of tiny legs ran down his arm. But he tried not to make a sound. He wanted to be like Heart of the Wind. Nothing seemed to bother her as she moved silently and smoothly through the swamp. Suddenly, a raucous howling ripped through the darkness. Yikes, said Annie. Heart of the Wind laughed. It is only the ones who tell the history of the forest, she said. Cool, said Jack. He knew the sounds came from howler monkeys, the loudest monkeys in the world. He'd learned about them on a nature show, but he preferred the Mayan girl's name for them. Maybe in their language, the monkeys really are telling the history of the forest, he thought. Come along, said Heart of the Wind. As they started through the darkness again, a different sound came from nearby, a deep, ominous growl. "Whoa," whispered Jack. Heart of the Wind held up her hand. "Silence," she said, keeping her voice low. "He is watching us." "Who?" whispered Annie. "He who kills with one leap," the girl said. "Oh, just him," whispered Jack, trying to make a joke. Heart of the Wind laughed softly. "Yes, him, there," she said, pointing. In the moonlight, Jack could see yellow eyes and spotted fur. "A jaguar," he thought. Should we go another way, maybe?" he said. "No, I will send him peaceful thoughts," said Heart of the Wind. "Good idea," whispered Annie. She and Jack were silent as the Mayan girl stared for a long moment at the jaguar. Then she took a deep breath. "He says we may pass his way." "He does?" said Jack. "Cool," said Annie. Heart of the Wind led them past the tree where the jaguar crouched on a limb. Clutching his bag, Jack barely breathed as he slipped past the huge cat. "Good night," Heart of the Wind called back to the jaguar. "Thank you," called Annie. The cat growled again. He said, "Sure, no problem," said Jack. Heart of the Wind laughed at his joke, and Jack laughed too. Despite the danger, he was having a good time. Jack and Annie followed Heart of the Wind as she forged on through the forest, climbing over tangles of roots and wading through knee-high water. "She's like an Eagle Scout," Annie said to Jack. "I was thinking more like a Navy SEAL," said Jack. The Mayan girl came to a halt. "Do not go near that log," she whispered, pointing to a fallen tree trunk. "Why not?" asked Jack. "It lives," she said. "It lives?" said Jack. Heart of the Wind broke off a twig and tossed it at the log. The log moved. It was the snout of a crocodile. Its huge mouth opened and closed. Jack and Danny jumped back. They laughed at themselves and then followed Heart of the Wind as she led them away from the crocodile. "He is called Earth Monster of the Underworld," she said. "Good name," said Annie. "To get to the sea, we must travel through the underworld," said Heart of the Wind. And what's that exactly?" asked Jack. "The home of the ancestor spirits," said the girl. "My father's warriors will not enter the underworld. They are frightened by what they cannot see. But I am not afraid." "Me neither," said Annie. "Nope, not one bit," said Jack, and he meant it. As long as they were with Heart of the Wind, scary stuff didn't seem all that scary. At that moment, he wasn't afraid of anything. Chapter 8. Through the Underworld. "Soon we will enter the underworld," said Heart of the Wind. She led Jack and Danny through the mangrove forest until they came to a river hidden by trees and vines. As the leafy branches swayed in the breeze, moonlight danced on the silvery water. "This is the sacred well," the Mayan girl said. "Our journey to the underworld begins here." She stepped over to a hollowed-out log canoe at the water's edge. She picked up a wooden paddle lying beside the boat. As Heart of the Wind pushed the canoe into the sacred well, Jack turned to Annie. "Remember how the travel guide mentioned sinkholes filled with water?" he whispered. "This must be one of them." "Sacred well sounds way better than sinkhole, doesn't it?" whispered Annie. "Definitely," said Jack. Heart of the Wind slipped down into the dugout canoe and picked up the paddle. "Please climb in," she said. Jack and Annie carefully lowered themselves down into the rough interior of the boat. Jack held their bag on his lap. Heart of the Wind began paddling through the waters of the sacred well. As she shifted her paddle from side to side, the log canoe glided over the shimmering river. It curved down a shadowy passageway between rocks and then arrived at the yawning mouth of a cave. Now we enter the underworld, said Heart of the Wind. Moonlight shimmered on the underground river as the canoe glided in and out of light-filled passageways and tunnels. Water dripped and trickled down the cave walls. Soon, one of the tunnels opened into a huge chamber that had a giant hole in the ceiling, letting in the full light of the moon. "Oh man," breathed Jack. Huge columns of white rock stretched down from the ceiling of the cavern. The columns looked as if they were made of gleaming ice, and thousands of tiny icicle-like strands covered the craggy walls. "What are those?" Annie asked. "Stone sculptures made by the rain god," said Heart of the Wind. Jack knew from a geology book that the formations were called stalactites. They were made by centuries of dripping and trickling water in the caves, but he liked Heart of the Wind's answer better. The Mayan girl carefully steered the canoe around the gleaming columns. "Look there," she whispered. She pointed to a ledge in the chamber. On the ledge was a platform that held carved wooden statues. Some looked like snarling jaguars, others like coiled serpents. The largest was a statue of an angry king with a terrible scowl. They guard the underworld and protect the ancestor spirits, Heart of the Wind explained. "Cool," said Annie. Heart of the Wind steered the canoe around a corner and into another cave tunnel. This tunnel was completely dark, without a trace of light. The air was cold and clammy. The canoe bumped against the rock walls. Jack reached out and felt the slippery, drippy stone. He pulled his hand back and shuddered. As Heart of the Wind paddled on through the black tunnel, Jack clutched his bag and tried to still his racing heart. The underworld frightened him a little now. The tireless drip, drip of water, the strange statues of serpents and jaguars, and now the dank utter darkness of the tunnel. "Where are the ancestor spirits?" whispered Annie. "They are all around us," Heart of the Wind whispered back. "They are watching everything we do." "Oh man," Jack thought. "No wonder the king's warriors were afraid to enter the underworld." "Do not be afraid," said the Mayan girl, as if she had read his thoughts. "I will protect you." "Thank you," whispered Annie, sounding a little nervous herself. Heart of the Wind paddled through the twists and turns of the underworld until finally the canoe emerged onto a glistening pool that was open to the moonlit sky. "Whew, we made it," said Annie. "And lived to tell about it," Jack said, only half joking. "That was great," said Annie. "You are both more brave than my father's men," said Heart of the Wind. "Not really," said Jack, but he secretly liked thinking of himself as being braver than an ancient Mayan warrior. That was an incredible ride. Heart of the Wind paddled the canoe to the edge of the water. "We have arrived," she said. Jack could hear ocean waves and the cries of gulls. The moon was going down. In the east, the sky was growing lighter. Heart of the Wind held the canoe steady as Jack and Danny climbed out onto the beach. The Mayan girl followed behind them, and Jack and Danny helped her pull the log canoe out of the pool onto the cool sand. The light of the dawn will be bright very soon, said Heart of the Wind. What will you do now? We need to find something we lost, Annie said. It's next to a raft we left on the beach. At least we hope it is, said Jack. Where is the raft? The girl asked. In the cove below the City of Dawn, said Annie. Follow me, said Heart of the Wind. I will take you there. The Mayan girl led Jack and Danny down the misty beach. When they came to a pile of stones jutting into the sea, she stopped. Stay close to the rocks so the watchmen cannot see us, she said. They will not leave their post until the sun rises. With the mist hiding them, Heart of the Wind led Jack and Danny over the rocks. Jack could hear the waves breaking against the shore. And what will you do next? Annie asked as they followed Heart of the Wind. Where will you go after we leave you? I will return to my father, said the girl. I will tell him that you have gone home to your own true father and mother. Will your father be mad? Asked Jack. Perhaps, said Heart of the Wind. He believed you were the answer to a question he has been asking for a long time. Who will lead our people after he dies? Okay, but I have a question for him, said Annie. What is your question? Said Heart of the Wind. She stopped and looked back at Annie. I would like to ask him, why can't your daughter, Heart of the Wind, lead your people after you are gone? Said Annie. The Mayan girl laughed, the biggest laugh she'd laughed all night. You are crazy, she said. Seriously, that's a great question, said Jack. Why can't you be the next great son of Palenque? Yes, said Annie. Where we come from, women are leaders of many countries and cities and states. Heart of the Wind looked shocked. Truly? But that is not possible here. A female is not allowed to rule the Mayan people. Now you must hurry, before the sun rises. She moved away from them, climbing over the rocks again, as if the matter were closed. Jack and Danny hurried to keep up with Heart of the Wind. Finally, the three of them climbed over a big boulder and dropped down onto the sandy beach of the cove. Listen to me, Heart of the Wind, said Annie. You're as brave as any warrior. Braver, really. You don't seem at all afraid of the forest or the underworld. Right, and you know tons more than I do, said Jack. You know your people. I'll bet you know a lot about farming and you know how to use the Mayan calendar, right? Heart of the Wind nodded. Yes. And you know how to talk to the jaguars, said Annie. And you're not afraid of the rain god or the ancestor spirits, said Jack. So why can't you be a leader? Asked Annie. Heart of the Wind turned to look at the sea and slowly shook her head. No, no, no. It is not possible. Never. Okay, but just answer one question for me, said Annie. Would you like to be the great son of Palenque someday? If you could be, would you? Tell the truth. Heart of the Wind looked back at Jack and Danny. She smiled. Yes, I would like to be the leader of my people. We know you would take good care of them, said Annie. Just like you've taken good care of us. I would be fair and just, said Heart of the Wind. I would teach everyone to read our calendar and learn our writing. I would make certain that all of my people had enough fish, beans, and grains to eat. Heart of the Wind, you must tell that to your father, said Annie. He would laugh at me, said Heart of the Wind. He would never allow a girl to inherit his throne, not even a daughter he loves greatly. That would be against all the customs and traditions of our ancestors. Isn't there any way you could change his mind? Said Jack. Only a miracle could change the mind of my father about this, said Heart of the Wind. Okay, said Annie. I have an idea. What if Jack told him? Me? Jack said to Annie. Yes, said Annie. Heart of the Wind, your father believes Jack came from a faraway place to teach new things to your people. So maybe Jack could teach him that girls can grow up to be great leaders, just like boys. No, Annie, we can't go back, Jack whispered. Heart of the Wind looked thoughtful, and then slowly she nodded. Yes, I believe words from Jack might help my father think a new thought, she said. Great, said Annie. Annie, we can't go back, Jack said again. What if he won't listen to me? What if he's convinced I was sent here to be the great son of Palenque? Don't worry, you and I don't have to go back, said Annie, and her father will listen to you, because it's going to seem like a miracle to him. What? Said Jack. How? Give me the bag, please, said Annie. Jack handed her their bag. Annie unzipped it. She reached in and pulled out their cell phone. This will go back with Heart of the Wind, Annie said to Jack, with an important message from you.